In front of the entire academy, Liu Yinran stood like a star, brilliant, beautiful, and undeniably gifted. During the summoning rite, she called none other than the legendary war god Bai Qi, instantly becoming the pride of the school. Yet in the crowd, a lone student scoffed. Only 40% compatibility and you're all acting like she's the chosen one. Her eyes turned cold as frost. A bottom-ranking nobody dares to criticize me. The onlookers burst in a mocking laughter, treating him like some arrogant clown. 100 years ago, a divine arena descended upon this land, altering the rules of the world. Long-lost deities awakened and myth became reality. Now, any youth who turned the 16th of May attempt to awaken a god spirit. Those who succeed gain divine powers and the right to represent their faction in the mythic arena, but the summoning is no safe ritual. If the wrong god is called, the summoner may face instant obliteration. And this boy, once just a high school student from another world, has somehow been dragged into this game of gods. After asking around, he finally learned that today marked the once-in-a-decade day of divine awakening. Unfortunately, the Eastern Realm faction had long suffered a collapse in their native god lineage. This weakness had led to repeated losses against the neighboring Sakura Dominion in the mythic arena. Just then, the city lord stepped onto the platform and solemnly announced the beginning of the summoning ritual. The crowd erupted. This might be the long-awaited moment when the Eastern Realm rises again. Glancing at the summoning token in his palm, he couldn't help but sigh. This world was truly brutal. One misstep and a failed summoning meant instant annihilation. At that moment, dressed in flowing white robes, Liu Yangran took the stage, becoming the to step onto the sacred altar. The entire arena fell into silence. With her talent, everyone believed she would call a mighty god. Unfortunately, the Eastern Realm had already lost 2 matches this morning in the mythic arena. The situation was dire, and if Liu Yangran could summon a powerful deity, it might just turn the tide. She stepped forward with calm confidence, while even the city lord beside her silently hoped she'd awaken a high-tier god to save their faction from disgrace. As her fingertips touched the summoning crystal, a burst of radiant energy exploded outward, drawing everyone's gaze. The old scholar standing next to the lord gasped, "That's the omen of a high-grade deity." Moments later, 3 towering divine figures emerged in the sky, exuding overwhelming power, yet none of them had ever been recorded in the Eastern Realm's ancient archives. But his heart tightened. Those silhouettes looked exactly like the legendary war gods from his past life on Earth. The crowd buzzed with speculation, voices rising in excitement, and then Liu Yinran's voice rang like a silver bell. The god of slaughter whose name echoes through history. The Battle of Red Cliffs ran with blood. I, Liu Yangran, humbly invite the war god Bai Qi to descend. In response, Bai Qi's divine form began its descent from the heavens, slowly approaching the altar. Yet he couldn't shake the confusion. Red Cliffs. Wasn't Bai Qi famous for the Battle of Champing? That was a completely different era. Zhu Hao quickly pulled him aside and whispered harshly, "Liu Yangran is the daughter of a sort of mortal. With that kind of heritage, how dare you question her here of all places?" More voices joined in the mockery. "Who does this clown think he is? Making up nonsense like some battle of chomping, that's not even in the history records." A quiet sorrow settled in his heart. This world, its civilization, had truly suffered a break. The people had forgotten their past, their blood-soaked legacy, and replaced it with hollow myths. Then came the city lord's official announcement. Liu Yinran had achieved a 40% compatibility, successfully summoning an S-rank deity Bai Qi, the god of slaughter. Liu Yinran glanced in his direction, her eyes cold and proud, as if silently saying, "Now do you understand the gap between us?" If she was still young, her true power needed time to grow. All awaited the return of her father, the famed sword immortal, guarding the frontier to lead them in the coming divine war. But instead of stepping down, Liu Yinran turned her gaze upward toward the 2 remaining divine silhouettes still suspended in the sky. The city lord furrowed his brow. What's she trying to do now? She moved beneath one of the figures, a towering presence draped in a black imperial robe. The aura alone proclaimed him a sovereign. Whispers swept through the crowd. Could it be the one they called the Eternal Emperor? The youth who pacified the realm, a warrior king of 1,000 campaigns? Maybe, just maybe, it's the legendary Taizone, but the records of his deeds are little more than fading shadows now. He glanced at the divine statue and immediately shook his head. That can't be Li Shimen. During the sweating period, emperors wore robes of bright yellow. No dynasty in recorded history ever dressed their monarchs in black. Slowly, he approached the shadowy figure. As the divine presence washed over him, he felt a surge of immense deep pressure. Something about it sparked a familiar memory. Suddenly, an aged voice rang out across the arena. This is the imperial-class deity to appear in 100 years. But beware, there have been countless rulers across history. If the wrong one is summoned, the backlash could kill the summoner instantly. The speaker was none other than Dean Lisharan of the prestigious Skyward Academy, the highest authority among the 4 great institutions. Even the city lord stepped forward in alarm. Liu Yinran, you are the future of the realm. We cannot allow you to take such a deadly risk. But Lu Yinran hesitated, her gaze lingering on the imperial figure above. If she turned away now, this supreme deity might vanish from the world forever. Lu Xian firmly intervened again. We cannot gamble the fate of our strongest future champion. Without delay, he issued an emergency order activating 10 years' worth of national destiny reserves to stabilize the deity's essence temporarily. Their only hope was to see if a student among them could recognize the god. Turning toward the gathered youths, Li Shen's eyes swept across them all. Though historical records were vague, many believed this deity resembled the legendary Emperor Taizo. And if that were true, then this divine presence could be the key to their civilization's revival. The Eastern Realm had already suffered 2 devastating losses in this war of national fate, both at the hands of the Sakura Dominion. One more defeat, and their place in the mythic arena might be lost forever. Li Xian addressed the crowd with grave intensity. If any of you recognize this deity, step forward. But let me be absolutely clear, summon the wrong god and you will die where you stand. So is anyone still willing to try? Whispers filled the air. Many began to doubt. Perhaps this wasn't emperortism at all. A mistake here would mean certain death, but the warriors of the Eastern Realm were never known for cowardice. A young man shouted, "I'll do it. I'll fight for the realm even if it cost my life." A girl stepped out just as boldly, Chunyu of the Magic City Academy, willing to risk everything. More voices followed, students shouting the names of their academies and pledging themselves to the cause. For the realm, we are not afraid to die. Just then, one figure raised his hand, stepping forward to silence the noise. This deity, I believe his true identity differs from the dean's assumption. Lu Changsheng of Jinling Academy, I'll be the one to try. The crowd turned in stunned silence. Wasn't it the clown who questioned Lu Yangran earlier? Zhu Hao leaned in and whispered, "Are you sure? One mistake and you're dead." But Lu Changsheng didn't respond. Watching from the side, Dean Li Xian felt a flicker of unease. What a remarkable young man. Still, he couldn't help but question whether Lu truly understood this emperor's history. After all his research, the only figure that matched this deity's traits was Emperor Taizo. Even so, he gave a reluctant nod. You may try, but be certain of the risk. Lu smiled faintly. Leave it to me. As for the risk, there's nothing to consider. I know exactly who this emperor is. From the opposing stands of the Sakura Dominion came waves of laughter. Look at that fool, so eager to die and he thinks he's some kind of hero. But behind Lu, cheers erupted from the Eastern Realm side, chanting his name with unshakable pride. He reached out and placed his hand on the summoning crystal. In the next instant, a brilliant crimson light exploded from the altar, so blinding that the crowd had to shield their eyes. Liu Yinran's expression changed instantly. What? He triggered an unknown high-level deity too. Could this clown have awakened something even stronger than mine? The Sakura Dominion was stunned. Crimson light. They had always believed that orange was the highest divine grade. Was there a rank beyond even that? Even the Spearhold Federation's delegation clenched their jaws in frustration. They hadn't seen a single yellow-tier divine light, and now they were witnessing a crimson one. Dean Mission's voice was deep and steady. This is the aura of an SSS-ranked deity. The known divine ranks are white, green, blue, purple, and orange. But few realize beyond orange lies one forbidden tier, crimson. The city lord stood in shock. An SSS-ranked deity, could such a god truly exist in the Eastern Realm's forgotten history? But Li Xing narrowed his eyes and murmured, the rank of SSS is merely a measure of the god, not of the summoner, and this boy hasn't even begun to show his full power. Even Lu Yinran looked stunned. Wasn't he just a failing student? And yet he summoned a force stronger than anything she had ever seen. The colossal figure forming in the light radiated a terrifying divine pressure, a presence that seemed to declare, victory will return to the realm. Lu Shen gasped as he recognized the form. A battle axe, a titan that reaches the heavens. Could it be Xingqian, the ancient war god? Lu Changshan smirked faintly, a dean should know better. Xingqian fought headless, seen with his chest, speaking from his belly, wielding twin axes in fury. This being is not Xingqian. Still, he couldn't fully blame them. The mythology of this world had long been buried, forgotten. Perhaps that was why he'd been brought here in the place. Then his voice rang out across the sacred altar, solemn and resounding. In the beginning, Pangu split the heavens and shaped the world. Though his body fell, his soul remains eternal. Liu Changsheng of Jinling Academy humbly calls upon the creator god, Pangu, to descend. The crowd gasped in disbelief. Creator god? What kind of deity is that supposed to be? Many spectators from the Eastern Realm looked confused. How does Lu Chongqing even know about this Pangu god? But for those who knew the ancient tales, the answer was terrifying. Pangu, the one who split the heavens and gave birth to the world, a being beyond comparison. If Lu could truly wield the power of Pangu in battle, the enemy wouldn't even have time to beg for mercy. At that moment, a glowing system panel appeared in front of him. Name, Lu Changshan compatibility, 1% bonded deity. Pangu, far away, deep within the temple of all deities where every god of the Eastern Realm was ranked and recorded. Above them all, on the highest pedestal, stood the lone figure of the creator god, Pangu. Boom. The moment the system confirmed the bond, a temple acolyte raised a ceremonial hammer and struck the sky bell of divinity. It rang out 9 times in rapid succession. Each chime thundered across the land, shaking the heavens themselves. Even Sword Immortal Lu Qing, stationed on the borderlands, paused and frowned. Did I just hear 9 chimes? Dean Lixian trembled with excitement. 9 tolls, the divine number of perfection. It's unprecedented. He really awakened the supreme god. Even Liu Yinran couldn't hide her shock. They say the strongest god ever recorded triggered only 3, but this is on a whole other level. Meanwhile, chaos erupted in the Sakura Dominion stance. What the hell? That brat from the Eastern Realm just awakened the highest tier deity. Emperor Takura turned to a cloaked youth known for his serpent-based combat style. Can you eliminate Liu Chongqing? The man smirked. Even if he summoned the highest tier god, his compatibility is only 1%. He won't be able to fully summon it in the arena. With his current power, crushing him will be easy. Hearing this, Takura's gaze turned cold. The Eastern Realm has long been our sworn rival. That boy must be eliminated now before he becomes a threat to us all. Without hesitation, he activated the forbidden ritual, the name-locking god duel. Meanwhile, Pangu's divine image slowly dissipated. Though SSS is considered the cap of god tier ranking, Pangu clearly surpasses even that. Liu Changsheng, limited by his current compatibility, couldn't fully summon Pangu on the battlefield, but he was more than capable of calling another high-ranking god. As he stepped toward another statue to begin the next summoning, the ground beneath him exploded. A surge of energy lifted him into the air. Dean Lishan's face darkened. This must be a name-locking duel. They burned 10 years of their national fortune to trap him in a dimensional battle. In the blink of an eye, Liu's body was fully teleported. He hadn't even had time to complete his summoning. As his form faded into shimmering projections, even Li Xian could do nothing to stop it. Furious, the instructors cursed toward the enemy's stance. Cowards, they've stooped this low. Even the composed Liu Yinran couldn't hold back. Those bastards on the Sakura Dominion's side, the mood was triumphant. Their fear from earlier had turned to mockery. After all, the Eastern Realm's rising star was moments away from death. And if they could kill Liu Changsheng now, all 10 years of expended national fate would be reclaimed from his soul. Elsewhere, Sword Immortal Lu Qing received an urgent alert from the national fate system. His assistant quickly explained, the Sakura Dominion has just burned 10 years of national destiny to prematurely activate the mythic arena. Their goal is to eliminate the Eastern Realm's rising star before he fully awakens. According to the rules, the name-locking god duel can only target god-bound individuals whose deities rank S or above. Once initiated, the target must respond. The assistant wiped sweat from his brow. 10 years of fate just to kill a student. It's downright vile. Lu Qing's fist clenched tightly. If anything happens to our champion in that arena, then next year, my blade will carve a path through Psycho Fortress. 2 minutes and 30 seconds later, Lu Qiangxing's form materialized on the divine battlefield. Across from him stood a warrior cloaked in scaled armor, host of the serpent god, Yamato Enroki. The man smirked arrogantly. You come on stage looking like that. With your current strength, I could tear you apart without breaking a sweat. But Liu didn't respond. He knew he couldn't summon Penga here, but he had faith. The imperial god stabilized by Li Xian might yet return to the field. Enraged by his silence, the enemy shouted, "What's wrong?" Afraid to even look at me. And then in an instant, he froze. Liu Chongqing's face remained calm as ever. He tilted his head and said lightly, "A snake like you would probably make a decent soup stock." The serpent god warrior let out a mocking laugh. "You've got quite the sharp tongue. Let's see if you're still talking tough when you're on your knees." As both of us took our places on the stage, a woman with long golden hair descended from the sky, her presence commanding and regal. She was the appointed arbiter of this battle. Every move we made would be judged by her decree. It was said that if the Eastern Realm lost again today, over half their population's destiny would be forcibly drained and transferred to the Sakura Dominion. At that moment, a glowing interface appeared before me listing the core rules of the mythic arena. Rule 1, 5 deities will be randomly generated each round. You must choose one to summon. Rule 2, once a deity has been summoned, it cannot be used again in future rounds. Rule 3, best of 5. To win, 3 rounds survives. The loser and their god will perish. I like these rules. Simple, brutal, fair, victory brings survival, defeat means death. That snake bastard has claimed the lives of countless warriors from my realm. Today, I'm here to settle the score. He chuckled darkly. Good. That's exactly what I was hoping for. As we both confirmed the terms, the judge's voice echoed through the arena. Let the mythic battle begin. Representing the Sakura Dominion. Matsumoto Jinzu, S-rank godbound, wielding the SS-rank deity. Yamada Naroki, representing the Eastern Realm. Liu Changsheng bonded to the SS-rank deity, Pangu, the creator god. The judge let out a faint seductive smile. She clearly looked forward to this round. In the next moment, the massive form of Yamato Naroki descended from the skies, coiling with menacing power behind Matsumoto Ginzu. He sneered full of arrogance. "Yoshi, we got this in a bag. My serpent gods already shredded 2 of your champions. Prepare to tremble, little brat." Just then, 5 divine silhouettes began to emerge behind Lu Changsheng, shimmering with ancient power. A collective sigh rose from the crowd. "No Pangu," one bitter thought echoed in their hearts. "The heavens have forsaken the Eastern realm." But Liu's gaze locked firmly onto a particular imperial figure among the 5. A monarch like him should never have been forgotten by the people of the Eastern realm nor buried beneath the dust of broken records. From the stands, Dean Lixian shouted in urgency, "Changsheng, that emperor, it could be Taizong of the Tang dynasty." Liu Yinran hesitated, her voice thoughtful. "No. I think it looks more like the Ming Emperor Zhu Yuanzhong." Hearing them both, Liu could only shake his head silently. "They are both wrong." Instead of correcting them, he calmly recited the truth. Qin Sovereign swept through the 6 kingdoms. All lords bowed westward. His gaze ruled all under heaven. He was the one true emperor of ages. Lu Changsheng bowed solemnly and spoke with reverence. "I, an unworthy descendant of the Eastern realm, pay respects to the sovereign, Emperor Qin Shi Huang." Boom. A pillar of golden light erupted from the heavens, enveloping the forming divine figure. Within moments, the silhouette solidified, mighty, regal, and descended slowly onto the battlefield. From the sidelines, the city lord erupted in excitement. "The heavens bless our realm. Even the emperor has returned to us," but Dean Lixing only sighed quietly. "Alas, he is a human god." In the divine hierarchy, human gods, those born from mortal legends, were generally weaker than their counterparts, the feral primal beast gods. Lu had just bonded with this emperor figure while Yamato Naroki was already a fully manifested Assestia beast god. In a direct clash, the odds did not favor the emperor. Matsumoto Jinsu sneered. "So you really couldn't summon Pangu, and to make things worse, you called out a pathetic human god. How pitiful." But Lu Changsheng ignored him, lowering himself with deep respect before the divine figure. "Lu Changsheng, descendant of your people, offers his humble salute. The world may have forgotten you, but I will not. From this day your legacy will be remembered, etched in eternity." Lu Changsheng raised his voice with conviction. "My ancestor once dominated all lands, unifying 6 kingdoms beneath his banner, carving rivers and mountains into order, building walls that stretched to the ends of the realm, driving back every invader from the Eastern realm." As he finished speaking, a golden dragon burst from Qin Shi Huang's body, soaring high into the air, its roar shaking the heavens. A system alert followed immediately. Liu Changsheng's compatibility with Qin Shi Huang has reached 60%. The students erupted in excitement. After hearing Liu's declaration, many were shocked to learn just how legendary the emperor truly was. But Matsumoto Jinzu scoffed, unimpressed. "So what if he was an emperor? He's just another human god. Do you really think he can move the heavens?" Seeing confusion flash across the emperor's face, Liu calmly explained that one belongs to the enemy faction that seeks to disgrace the Eastern realm. Qin Shi Huang's expression darkened. His voice boomed with rage. "Any who threaten my realm shall be punished without mercy." The audience from the Sakura Dominion snorted in laughter. Big word from a Ray god. Did he forget how he tore apart their last 2 champions? Genzu sneered, typical emperor, always full of bravado. Then with a flick of his wrist, Yamatoki surged forward, its aura oppressive. A human god challenging a true divine being. "You've got guts. I'll give you that." Yamato Naraki spoke coldly, its voice dripping with disdain. "I expected a worthy clash, a divine war worth my time, but instead, I get a human god." It glanced at the emperor's lean frame and scoffed. "That body doesn't even look like enough to get stuck in my teeth." Qin Shi Huang's eyes burned with fury. Not once in his reign had anyone dared mock him to his face. Then slowly, a golden sword formed in his grasp, 3 feet and 6 inches long, its edge gleamed like fire. This was the legendary Sword of Unification, revered for centuries as the greatest blade of the mortal realm. This sword, the Emperor roared, was forged in the name of uniting the realm. From the audience stands of the heavenly Brahma domain, shocked whisper spread. Is that human god from the Eastern realm actually gonna fight the Urukai head-on? Even the Spear-Old Federation spectators grew grim. Honestly, it's kind of tragic. They finally summoned someone and now he's about to be crushed, but not all were grim. Many leaned in with morbid curiosity. Can a human god really stand against a true deity? The great serpent narrowed its eyes amused. Then come, dance for me, mortal emperor. Let's hope your little sword doesn't bore me. In a sudden blur, Yamato Nareok lunged forward, its body coiling with violent force. A mortal dares defy the gods then die as one. Boom. The impact struck like a meteor. The arena beneath them shattered, exploding in his shards and dust. Seeing Yamato Ruki's destructive strike, Emperor Takura smirked. That so-called human emperor will end up just like the last 2 gods, torn apart without resistance. The Secura Dominion audience laughed loudly. They summon a human god. No matter the rarity, it can't possibly compare to a born and bred beast god. But then, FWOSH, a blinding golden gate erupted from beneath the arena, roaring skyward. In a flash, Qin Shi Huang's blade swept through the air, cleaving one of Yamanaroki's heads clean off. The sword of unification shimmered with the phantom of a 5-clawed golden dragon, its aura suffocating. Thud, the severed serpent head hit the ground, splashing blood across the stone. Takura's grin froze in place. His eyes widened. What? That strike from a human emperor. Liu Yinran jumped to her feet, unable to contain herself. He did in one move. He cut off one of Orochi's heads with a single sword strike. That's insane. Even Yamada or Orochi looked shaken. There's no divine energy inside you. So how are you wielding power equal to that of God? Qin Shi Huang raised his head slowly. His voice echoed like a bell across the shattered arena. To obey is to live. To resist is death. What flows through me is not divine power, but the will of 10 million cultivators of the Eastern Realm. I am forged by the ancient chi arts of the pre-Qin era, strength that defies the heavens itself. What are you to stand before it? Dean Lucian looked like an excited child, eyes gleaming. I can't believe it. Our ancestors from the Eastern Realm actually crafted such a world-shaking Kai technique. The moment Kai cultivation was mentioned, Yamadaroki's gaze sharpened, but it still smirked. Interesting, but all you managed to slice off was one head. As it spoke, the severed stump writhed and twisted. Within seconds, a new serpent head had fully regrown. My divine body regenerates endlessly. Limbs can be restored. Death is not my fate. Orochi let out a guttural laugh bellowing across the arena. You're just a human god. What gives you the right to stand before me? In its eyes, mortals existed to kneel and grovel. For a human emperor to wound it, that was an insult that could not be forgiven. But Qin Shi Huang stood tall, unfazed. I've conquered kings and unified realms. Do you think a beast like you frightens me? If I fall today, I fall with no regrets, for I bear the honor of my people and the weight of 1,000 years. That defiance finally broke Orochi's patience. With a roar, all 8 heads lunged at once, an overwhelming wave of fangs and fury. But each strike was met by blinding sword arcs and thunderous steps. The human emperor stood his ground, deflecting one serpent after another. Still, he was only human. Slowly, he began to falter. Wounds opened across his body and his stance wavered. Meanwhile, Yamato Naruki, though injured, continued to regenerate, its divine body restoring itself with terrifying speed. Soon, every wound would be gone. In the stands of the Eastern Realm, many spectators could barely watch anymore. It wasn't that the human emperor was weak, but Yamato Hiroki's undying regeneration was simply too monstrous. Even Qin Shi Huang himself looked shaken. In all the ancient texts he had studied, not even the immortals were truly unkillable, but he didn't retreat. In the span of a blink, he struck again, severing another serpent head. He would test one truth: could he kill faster than it could heal? Yet after just 2.5 rounds, the Orochi landed a brutal hit. It had sensed his fatigue, realizing that each of his attacks had grown slower, more desperate. Boom! Qin Shi Huang's body slammed into the arena floor, stone erupting around him. He dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. His strength was nearly gone. In the stands, a young girl sobbed uncontrollably. The mythic arena runs with the blood of our ancestors. It's too painful to watch. Dean Lixing's expression collapsed into despair. He had prepared to forfeit. If Liu Changsheng still lived, perhaps the Eastern Realm had a future. But now, he couldn't let another ancestor die. Yamato Naruki advanced with overwhelming pressure. Though it had only 8 heads, in the Emperor's eyes, they stretched into infinity. Yet beneath that pressure, Qin Shi Huang sensed something familiar, a pulse, a current, the chi of the Eastern Realm rising. He stood tall once more, voice ringing like a royal edict. All under heaven belongs to the throne, and you mongrels dare to run wild before its might. And then from the bodies of the elite below, divine shadows were pulled upward, drawn toward the arena. Not just them, across the realm, countless golden soul flames rose from the bodies of every divine citizen, converging toward the human emperor. The golden spirits flooding the arena were none other than the celestial Kinama, a divine legion once forged by the human emperor himself to guard the Eastern Realm for centuries. Qin Shi Huang let out a cold chuckle. You dare challenge me? With a single thunderous roar, kill. The sky itself trembled. The champion of Yamato Noah Orochi began to panic. How could a mere human god summon such terrifying divine forces? But he clung to his arrogance. No matter what, a human god was still just that, a human. They would never rival true gods like his Yamato no Orochi. Still, he thought of another way to win: kill the chosen one, Liu Changsheng, and the match was his. He activated his ability, his body fading from sight. So if you're blessed by heaven, I won't let you live long enough to grow. Whoosh! In a flash, the foreign champion reappeared behind Liu Changsheng. Both Dean Lixian and Liu Yinran shouted an alarm, behind you. Clang! The blade skimmed past his neck but failed to even scratch him. Liu Changsheng instantly seized his opponent's wrist. Boom. With a perfect over-the-shoulder throw, he slammed the enemy into the arena floor. The crowd gasped. He just became a divine chosen. Right? And his resonance with his god is barely anything. How is he this strong? Liu sneered. Sure. My compatibility with Pangu is low, just 1%, but even that tiny fraction grants me the strength of creation itself. As for that rusty blade of Matsumoto's, he gave a mocking glance. That toy couldn't even scratch my skin. My body's already as tough as stone. The champion from the Sakura Kingdom quickly scrambled to his feet, clearly shaken. He hadn't expected Liu Changshan, a newly awakened chosen, to possess such monstrous physical strength, but he still had another trick up his sleeve. His body suddenly began to split apart, forming an identical figure. You pitiful worm, you have no idea what real divine magic even is. Matsumoto roared, shadow clone technique. This is the difference between us. My clones carry all of my power. Now it's 2 versus 1. Let's see how long you last. I didn't waste a word. I lunged forward and grabbed both of his legs. One clone, one original. Boom. I slammed the 2 bodies together with bone-shattering force. I smirked. Gotta admit, SS rank, divine, chosen really are built different. The audience from the Eastern Realm erupted. Some were screaming my name and girls were practically throwing themselves at me. I'll marry him. No dowry, no conditions. Heck, I'll throw in 10 houses as a wedding gift. Meanwhile, chaos erupted in the Sakura Kingdom stance. The crowd went from smug to desperate, begging Yamada Naruki to unleash his divine wrath and crush the entire realm of Dosha. Even their trembling emperor knew if they lost this fight, it would shake their nation's faith and pride to its core. Yamadoroki could not lose, but no matter how they prayed, Yamadoroki's body kept getting shredded by the onslaught of summoned divine warriors. Soon, its form lay scattered in pieces across the arena. Qin Shi Huang held a crushing advantage now, but the fight was far from over. Trembling, the great serpent whispered an incantation. It would now sacrifice the very souls of the Sakura Kingdom citizens to power a forbidden divine ritual, its final shot at victory. And in an instant, the cheering spectators who once chanted "Go, go," were vaporized, melted away by the searing heat of divine energy without even time to scream. The nearly lifeless Yamato no Orokai suddenly burst with new vitality. After devouring the souls of the sacrificed spectators, its wounds regenerated at terrifying speed. Within seconds, the beast's body was fully restored, stronger than ever. Meanwhile, I had completely overpowered Matsumoto Genzo. According to the rules, when a divine chosen falls, the summoned god is recalled back to the gate of creation. That's why I didn't finish him off immediately. I needed to make sure the ancestor took out Yamanoroki, cutting off the thread at its root. The serpent let out a sinister laugh. Foolish human, do you really think you're just fighting me? Your true enemy is the countless souls behind me, the people of the Sakura Kingdom. Qin Shi Huang narrowed his eyes with disdain. So those you call your people are merely fuel to be discarded. You dare call yourself a god? For the time, the emperor's voice thundered with fury. You treat your worshippers as cattle for slaughter and have the gall to call that divine. Panic spread across the Sakura Kingdom stance. Most had already fled, terrified they'd be the next ones devoured by the creature they once revered. Qin Shi Huang, the man who sought immortality and was once mocked for it, now sneered. Perhaps I never found eternal life, but I discovered a technique. It may not grant me divinity, but it's more than enough to destroy a false god like you. The emperor soared into the sky cloaked in radiant gold. He chanted a solemn vow, may all beings rise like dragons, and made the name of the emperor echo through eternity. In the next moment, streaks of golden light burst from his body, descending like a divine rain upon every warrior who had summoned a guardian spirit, blessing them with the emperor's final will. Each of the human gods was now infused with the longevity cultivation technique passed down by the emperor, rapidly enhancing their synchronization with their chosen deities. Even the usually composed Liu Yangran looked shaken. Her divine resonance was spiking wildly. It wasn't just her, everyone could feel an overwhelming power surging within them. At the same time, the emperor's body had grown frail like a candle flickering in the wind, but he held no regrets. His lifelong wish had always been the eternal rise of the Qing dynasty, peace for his people in a world where mortals could stand as dragons. Tears welled in many eyes across the audience. So this is the spirit of our ancestors, a mortal who dares to dream bigger than the gods themselves. The emperor's breath grew weaker with each passing moment. This was the price he paid to protect his descendants. Even the monarch of the Empire of Albion was visibly stunned. The serpent god sacrificed its people for power, yet the human god burned his own life for theirs. The contrast was staggering. Whispers filled the arena. So this is the heritage of the fabled Eastern Realm. No wonder the Hua nation must never be underestimated. The emperor took a slow labored breath and called out, "Where are the celestial king guards?" A thunderous reply echoed across the mythic arena. "At your command." Though his body was withering, he still stood like a war god. By my decree, strike down the invaders, protect our land. The human gods formed a battle line standing firm before the serpent god ready to fight to the death. The serpent god blinked in surprise. The human emperor's aura was nearly extinguished, yet somehow he still summoned such overwhelming power. With a sharp slash, the army of divine warriors split the serpent's heads into bloody fragments. Barely 2.5 seconds later, the freshly regenerated body was again torn apart and scattered across the battlefield. A deadly glint flashed in the serpent's eyes. If it wanted to win now, it had only one option left: more sacrifices. Another wave of citizens from the Sakura Eastern Realm was instantly reduced to ash, their life force forcibly absorbed as fuel. The emperor of the Sakura Realm paled in horror. He knew that if this continued, their nation would be drained to the bone. Many of those sacrificed were elite divine hosts. The entire Sakura contingent dropped to their knees pleading with the serpent god to end its own life. They could bear no more loss. Some even cursed at it through tears. The gods of the Eastern Realm protect their people while you only know how to devour them. When nearly wiped out, already gravely wounded and cut off from its offerings, the serpent watched helplessly as its massive form was torn apart again and again. Seeing the opportunity, the emperor raised his hand and began to gather a radiant sword of golden energy. Listen well, Yamato Naroki, your followers have abandoned you. Now dive by my decree. With that roar, he unleashed his blade. A golden dragon burst piercing the heavens and the serpent's divine soul. Thus, the outcome of the divine duel was sealed. The Sakura realm had fallen. Victory belonged to Shinjo. With the demise of Yamada, no Orokai, Liu Chongqing saw no reason to spare Matsumoto Genzone. Time for you to join him, he growled, stomping down with a sharp crack as Genzone's neck snapped. Just like that, the once proud divine champion collapsed lifeless into a pool of blood. The host chuckled, his voice filled with excitement. Now, that was a battle worth remembering. He then raised his voice to announce, Liu Chongshan of the Granxia realm versus Matsumoto Genzon of the Sakura kingdom. Victory goes to Liu Chongshan. The current score stands at 1-2. The entire stadium erupted in wild cheers. He actually did it. Liu Chongqing really won. Even the headmaster was stunned speechless. This is what it means to defy gods with a mortal's will. No, to defeat them outright. Even a referee couldn't hide his admiration after this battle, but the war wasn't over yet. After a brief rest, both nations' divine champions were asked to prepare for the next match. Qin Shi Huang let out a weak cough as he slowly stood up, his hunched figure looking heartbreakingly fragile. The crowd from the Granxia realm cried out, Your Majesty, puzzled and distressed by his sudden weakness. Principal Li Xian sighed deeply. He has little faith power left to sustain him. This battle drained him down to his very essence. Qin Shi Huang's form began to glow, faintly dissolving in streams of golden light. Liu Changsheng rushed forward, helplessly trying to stop the fading process. With a gentle smile, Qin Shi Huang left his final words, Changsheng, I can't walk the rest of his path with you. Before he could even finish the sentence, his body turned into mist and vanished. Not even a last touch could be shared. Divine beings depend entirely on the strength of belief. But with no worshippers for over a millennium, Qin Shi Huang had paid for this battle with his life force. As Li Xian spoke, tears welled in his eyes. We are unworthy descendants. We forgot him. Just then, a system panel appeared. Qin Shi Huang temporarily frozen, awaiting faith restoration to rebuild core, can be resummoned later. Liu Changsheng's bond with him had now reached a staggering 90%. Liu Changsheng was surprised to discover that Emperor Qin hadn't truly vanished. He would return once enough faith was gathered. Even more unexpected was the fact that his own resonance with Pengu had also increased. The moment he saw the system notification, he finally felt at ease. Moments ago, he had nearly been moved to tears. If one day he could summon hundreds of divine champions and even call upon Pengu himself to descend, then total victory for Eastern Realm would no longer be a fantasy. If Pengu took the field, no foe would stand a chance. Standing tall on the platform, Liu Changsheng shouted to the crowd, Emperor Qin hasn't left us. He merely rests for now when his name echoes once more across the Eastern Realm. That will be the moment of his glorious return. Upon hearing this, Li Xian immediately ordered Emperor Qin's legacy to be recorded and preserved in the sacred archives for future generations to remember and revere. The spirit of Eastern Realm must never be buried by the sands of time. At that moment, beneath the spectator stands, Sword God, Liu Qing arrived with his secretary. He was the next contender in the mythic battle. Yet just then, his secretary gave a sinister smile and whispered, With my blood, I open the divine arena. The secretary suddenly raised her hand and pointed at Liu Qing. Her voice was cold and clear. Hanamiko of the Sakura Kingdom hereby challenges Liu Qing of the Granxia to a divine arena battle. The fight will commence in 10 minutes. Liu Qing was stunned. You were a spy from the Sakura Kingdom all along, but more pressing was the fact that with him being drawn into this battle, Granxia would have no one left to fight in the main arena. Seeing her cover completely blown, her Mamiko dropped all pretense. She had been lurking at Liu Qing's side for 10 long years waiting for this very moment. She believed that once Liu Qing was out of the picture, even the most gifted god chosen from Eastern Realm will be crushed before they could rise. In her eyes, the Grandshire was destined to submit to the Sakura Kingdom. With a cold snort, Liu Qing drew the sword from his back. A divine shadow appeared behind him. You dare to strike from the shadows, you'll pay with your life. Traitors like you deserve nothing less than death by my blade. Meanwhile, Dean Li's hand received the news of the assassination attempt on the Sword Immortal and was shaken to the core. He quickly announced to the crowd, Sword Immortal Liu Qing has been ambushed by a spy from the Sakura Kingdom and is unable to participate in the upcoming match. Grandshire will need to choose a new contender. The news sent shockwaves through the arena. Furious voices rose in a battle of life and death. Now even our Sword Immortal is down. Our chances are vanishing like dust, especially since 2 of the 4 deans of the Grandshire Academies had already been slain by Yamada no Orokai, and only Liu Qing had maintained an undefeated record against the Sakura deities. And now, with the match just moments away, Grandshire still hadn't found a new fighter to take his place. With a whoosh, a blazing phoenix phantom rose behind Din Lixian, radiating power and majesty. Liu Changsheng has exhausted his strength in the last battle. Now, let this old man take the field, but I quickly stepped forward and objected. Dean, please let me fight this round. I truly believe my odds of winning are much higher than yours. I'd rather take the risk than see you sacrifice yourself in vain. Despite my words, Lixian still hesitated, thinking I was merely acting brave. Even the 2 top prodigies tried to dissuade me. Not every god you summon will be one you know. Besides, the Dean possesses unmatched wisdom and is the strongest of the 4 academies. His chances might actually be better. I turned to Liu Yinran and met her gaze. I'm not being reckless. I truly have what it takes to win this fight. The moment I finished speaking, a majestic tower slowly rose behind me, shimmering with divine brilliance. I smiled and said, I once had a dream. A serene immortal touched my forehead, and when I awoke, ancient myths hidden within the Eastern Realm were etched into my mind. Legendary figures once forgotten by time began to awaken in my thoughts. The crowd was stunned by the towering structure. What kind of realm is this? How can such a heavenly palace exist? But what came next shocked them even more. My voice echoed across the divine arena. In the heavens lies the Jade Capital, 12 towers and 5 cities. An immortal blessed me, granting me a long life. As my words rang out, multiple phoenixes soared through the Eastern Realm behind me, dancing across the sky like a vision from the heavens. Upon witnessing the scene, Dean Lixian began to speculate. In ancient times, some achieved sudden enlightenment, sages who ascended overnight, monks whose bodies remained incorrupt after death. If Liu Changsheng truly experienced such a breakthrough, then his recognition of forgotten gods becomes understandable. Liu Changsheng stepped forward and stood before the Dean, his eyes resolute. Isn't this enough to prove my strength? I should be the one to fight the next battle. The city lord, still worried, said, I know you want to prove yourself, but the Dean possesses unparalleled knowledge of divine texts. He might stand a better chance. You're young. You don't need to risk your life for pride. Without replying, Liu Changsheng approached Dean Li and spoke clearly. A phoenix soars above the 9 heavens, reborn from fire atop Kunlun. With a vermilion fruit in its beak, it casts golden light across the 8 directions. Lixian's gaze locked onto his divine spirit, and to his amazement, he saw it growing stronger, imbued with divine nature, a gift from Liu Chongqing himself. The crowd erupted. Only now did they realize the so-called Sheng bird was in fact the legendary phoenix. Its true name lost to time now revealed by Liu Changsheng. Liu gave a faint smile. Now, how do you trust me? The myths I know go far beyond what's written in books. Finally, Dean Li nodded. Liu Changsheng, truly a blessing to our nation. He signaled for Liu to rest before the next battle. But Liu Changsheng didn't return to his seat. Instead, he walked over to Liu Yinran. In a steady, powerful voice, he said, Now it's your turn. Lord One feared across time. At the Battle of Chongqing, even gods trembled. With iron cavalry and golden spears, you swept through 6 kingdoms and made demons weep. Instantly, the divine light surrounding Liu Yinran's summoned god, Bai Qi, flared violently. A suffocating killing intent filled the air. Once again, Liu had imbued a god with divine nature. This time, the war god Bai Qi. Yet each time he did so, his own life force drained faster and faster. Everyone was stunned. Liu Changsheng, once seen as a failing student, had just empowered an S-tier deity of Eastern Realm with a new divine nature. And he did it not for fame, but to ignite a flicker of hope for his nation. In the eyes of the people, his figure had grown tall, mighty, almost heroic. Without him stepping up today, Eastern Realm would have surely fallen. At that moment, the round on the mythic arena was about to begin. The host turned to both camps and announced loudly, Would the contestants please step onto the stage? Representing Eastern Realm once again was the prodigy who had just stunned the world, Liu Changsheng. As for the Sakura Realm, they had sent a new contender, Sakura Momoka, whose divine spirit specialized in charm and seduction. A wave of jeers rose from the Sakura crowd. Eastern Realm really has no one left. They are still sending Liu Chongqing. The Sakura Emperor smirked from his seat. The shadow planted beside the sword immortal has been activated. With Momoka's charm-based god, he was confident this round was already won. Sakura Momoka gave a sweet smile. I look forward to this duo, Lu Quan. For a moment, if one ignored the nation she came from, her appearance was almost innocent. But that was the problem. With Sakura warriors, their poison ran deeper than their beauty. Across Eastern Realm's viewing stands, countless young men found themselves entranced by her looks, their gazes dazed. Dean Missing gritted his teeth. That charm ability, it's stronger than expected. But why do we have zero records on her background? At that moment, Sakura Momoka placed her hand on the summoning stone. Instantly, several divine silhouettes appeared behind her bathed in shimmering light. Simultaneously, a 50-second countdown appeared above the arena. Glancing at Liu Changsheng who had yet to summon his god, Momoka smirked playfully. What's the matter, Lu Quan? Still spacing out? Shouldn't you be calling your deity by now? The Eastern Realm audience grew visibly anxious. There's less than a minute left. What's he waiting for? Hurry up and summon. Meanwhile, Momoka's ritual had already concluded. Behind her stood a stunning figure with 9 swaying tails. Her presence elegant and dangerously seductive. In the stands of the Britannia Kingdom, several onlookers gasped. Who is this divine being? She's absolutely breathtaking. Even the stoic monks of the Indra domain flushed red. The moment that Fox Spirit appeared, she stirred emotions they thought long buried. This particular deity had never appeared on stage before, leaving the entire arena clueless about her identity. But Liu Changsheng only let out a calm chuckle. Just as he expected, the one she had summoned was Tamamenon, the most powerful of Sakura's 3 great yokai queens, unrivaled in beauty and charm. With her identity confirmed, Liu no longer needed to hesitate. With only 30 seconds left, he made his move. He slowly pressed his hand against the summoning crystal. The next moment, his eyes widened slightly. He hadn't expected to summon him. With a powerful voice, he chanted, Marshal Tianpong, guardian of the gates. Iron armor shining cold in the sun. His rake breaks through all foes. His 36 transformations conquer every trial. This time, the one Liu had awakened was none other than Marshal Qianpeng, Zhu Ganlai, the boar warrior of legend. Dean Lixian and the city lord exchanged stunned glances. Is Liu Changsheng actually summoning a yokai-class warrior? However, this came with a catch. Liu Chongqing's core divine bond was with a human god, and such a bond determined which pantheon he could summon from. His previous success with Pangu aligned perfectly with that. But now, attempting to summon a yokai god was a dangerous gamble. If he failed, he would die instantly on the Divine Awakening platform. Stepping forward with solemn grace, he called out, I, Liu Changsheng, humbly welcome the arrival of Marshal Tampon, Zhu Ganlai. The Sakura Nation stands erupted in disbelief. That guy's lost his mind. Summoning a yokai. Every failed attempt in history ended in death. Even the Sakura Emperor chuckled smugly. Clearly, he's out of options, unable to summon another human god. He's now recklessly turning to yokai, but then to everyone's astonishment, the towering celestial projection of Marshal Qianpeng began to fade, revealing a strikingly handsome man standing tall on a platform. The entire Sakura crowd was stunned. Wait, what? He actually succeeded? That's impossible. Meanwhile, the Eastern Realm side erupted with cheers. No one knew how Liu managed to summon a yokai, but one thing was clear, he was truly extraordinary. Dean Lixing smiled warmly like a proud parent. It seems Panga's legacy runs deeper than we imagined. With this, perhaps Eastern Realm still has hope. The Sakura Emperor scoffed dismissively. Even if the yokai took human form, he's still man. No man alive can resist Hamamo no Maisalua. Marshal Qianpeng stood tall at the center of the divine arena, clutching his 9-toothed rake. His imposing frame easily exceeded 3 meters. Liu Changsheng stared in awe. That's gigantic. The marshal furrowed his brow. Why is it so noisy out here? Liu quickly stepped forward and explained, this is the mythic arena. Foreign gods have come to suppress Eastern Realm. I, Liu Changsheng, humbly asked Marshal Qianpeng to defend our homeland against these invaders. But to his surprise, the marshal casually shrunk his massive weapon and jabbed it into the ground. I've had enough of blood and war. All I ever wanted was to enjoy the moonlight and peace and quietly accompany her. What do foreign gods have to do with me? With a loud huff, he turned as if to walk off the platform. Liu called out in desperation, please Marshal, fight for Eastern Realm just this once. Qianpeng grunted, picking at his ear. You're just as loud as the rest of them. My poor ears are about to blister from all this chatter. Realizing persuasion wasn't enough, Liu tried another angle. Do you still wish to see Lady Chang'e or maybe the Monkey King and Tang Sanzang? At that, the marshal stopped in his tracks. He turned with narrowed eyes. A world with barely any innocence left, a dying age of gods. Yet you, how do you know about Chang'e and that blasted monkey and the monk too? Liu Changsheng chuckled, you are underestimating me. Marshal, not only do I know of them, I have the power to bring them back. Marshal Tianpong narrowed his eyes. You, summon them. Don't be ridiculous. Liu leaned closer, his voice calm but firm. I know you're tired of being someone else's pawn, but what if I could summon the gods of Eastern Realm, rally divine power itself, and tear through the darkness to restore your honor? He added, help me today and I'll ensure Chang'e, the great sage and Tang Sanzang are freed, but you must fight for Eastern Realm right now. As soon as the words left his mouth, an overwhelming divine force erupted from Marshal Tianpa. In the blink of an eye, the marshal returned to his true form and grabbed Liu by the collar. You dare mess with me? Old pig doesn't fall for cheap tricks. The marshal's massive hand tightened around Liu's neck, but Liu quickly croaked out. Wait. Before you crush me, look at my divine guardian. A red aura burst to life behind him, an image of Pengu, the primal god of creation. Liu gasped, let me go or I'm seriously gonna die here. Tianpong froze. Pengu, the supreme one, slowly he released his grip. His gaze changed, now filled with reluctant awe. So it's true, you actually summoned Pengu. Looks like I really misjudged you. Liu let out a dry cough and managed a strained smile. So Marshal, are you willing to fight now? At that moment, clarity returned to Zhu Gagni's eyes, his gaze now calm and resolute. If even the great Pengu has placed his trust in you, then so will I. Just name the target. This old pig will crush whoever you point at. As soon as he finished speaking, Liu Changsheng fixed his eyes on a woman ahead. Brother, your next opponent is her. Zhu Ganlai followed his gaze and grinned. A woman. One punch and she's done. But Liu warned him seriously, don't underestimate her. Her divine spirit is a nine-tailed fox. She specializes in charm magic, especially deadly against men. From across the arena, laughter rang out from the opposing alliance. Look at that, Liu Chongqing's just standing there, must have already fallen for her tricks. With a thunderous crash, the nine-toothed rake slammed into the ground, shaking the platform. The next moment, Zhu Ganlai withdrew his divine form and stepped forward to human guys ready to fight side by side with Liu Chongqing. To Lunching's surprise, once Zhu Ganlai took on his human form, he instantly captivated many female spectators from the Allied Federation, leaving them utterly entranced. Meanwhile, in the Brahma Kingdom's viewing section, the monks whispered among themselves, this ancient beast clearly holds immense divine power. Over in the Pale Empire, an elderly man murmured, I wonder if this male spirit beast can resist Hamamo's seductive charm. On the arena stage, the divine-blooded girl began to step forward slowly. In the next moment, she suddenly shrugged off her kimono, then smiled and offered a proposition. Dear Longshen, why not join our Eastern Realm? We would gladly welcome you as our most honored guest. She firmly believed that if Liu Chongqing chose to join their faction, the people of the Securefall Alliance would welcome him with open arms, perhaps even honor him as a distinguished guest. Unlike Eastern Realm, she claimed their side would never let a newly awakened Chosen One be thrown into danger again and again. At that moment, the Chosen of Sekirofall cast a seductive spell under her breath, softly tempting. If you come to our side, I might even consider marrying you. That made Dean Lixian break into a cold sweat. This was no longer a fight, but a full-blown psychological assault. The city lord shouted in alarm, Liu Changsheng, don't let her mess with your head. Liu Changsheng felt the weight of her enchantment. It was strong, dangerously so. If not for his unshakable will, he might have already fallen under her charm. Even among the people of Eastern Realm, normally fierce and unforgiving, many flushed in embarrassment. If just watching from afar made them uneasy, how could Liu resist from up close? But his answer was clear. He refused to join the Securefall Alliance. The opposing Chosen clearly wasn't ready to give up. Liu didn't bother exchanging more words. With a snap of his hand, he summoned the nine-tooth rake. This was no ordinary weapon. It was a divine projection granted after the marshal agreed to fight. Through it, Liu now wielded a glimpse of the rake's true power. Realizing she couldn't win him over, the opposing Chosen finally sighed. What a shame. You had such a bright future and you just threw it away yourself. Liu Chongqing's expression didn't waver. Turning you down doesn't mean giving up my future. Back in my previous life during a modern history lecture, my professor once told me a powerful truth. Dignity lies only at the edge of the blade. Truth exists only within the range of a cannon. Those words stuck with me. If I kept backing down and avoiding conflict, I would only fuel my enemies' arrogance and lawlessness. If I were to retreat now, how could I face the millions of citizens standing behind me? Our Eastern Realm is a land of courtesy and virtue, but to friends, we offer fine wine and food. To enemies, only steel and fire. The audience from Eastern Realm erupted with thunderous cheers. Dignity lies only at the edge of the blade against the Securefall Alliance. We answer with bullets and blades. As I readied for battle, the cheers behind me surged again. Those who dare challenge Eastern Realm, no matter how far, shall be punished, and above them all rang a defiant chant. Liu Changsheng, razor-sharp and unyielding. Meanwhile, in the distant halls of the Pantheon, a young boy was sweeping the corridor. Suddenly, a flash of golden light made him squint and stumble backward, unable to open his eyes. He watched in shock as the national destiny of Eastern Realm surged upward before his eyes. Terrified, he rushed to report it to his superiors. Back on the battlefield, my duel had begun. I leapt into the air, swinging the nine-tooth rake with devastating force. My opponent countered with a deadly finishing move, ashfall of Yamabuki blossoms, scatter of willow leaves. Her folding fan shimmered with an enchanting aura, but I didn't pause for even a second. My weapon struck straight into that fan with overwhelming force. A cold sweat broke out on the face of the Sakura Realm's divine tactician. A newcomer with this level of brute force, he must not be allowed to live. She closed her folding fan, eyes sharpening with murderous intent. Her next move would end this battle. Her hands moved rapidly, forming seals. Ninjutsu, shadow clone technique, she shouted. In a flash, multiple versions of Sakura Momo appeared on the field. Each clone felt solid, indistinguishable from the real one. She sneered inwardly. So what if you defeated Matsumoto Ginzan? You're just a musclehead. You could never grasp the elegance of real techniques. Liu Chongqing's brows furrowed. Her mastery of spells far surpassed Matsumoto's. This wasn't a gap. He could bridge with brute force alone. Suddenly, she dropped low, blades flashing as she drew her swords in one fluid motion. Nitenachiryu, void slash, she roared, unleashing her family's secret sword technique passed down for generations. Liu Chongqing's eyes widened at the oncoming strike. At this moment, he realized he might not be able to block this one. Whoosh! The sword energy hit him squarely, sending him flying like a broken kite through the air. Fortunately, Liu Chongqing reacted just in time. Before the sword strike landed, he pulled back swiftly, avoiding a fatal blow. Still, the impact knocked him to the ground. The crowd from the Sakura Realm erupted into scornful laughter. A freshly awakened rookie thinking he can beat our Sakura Momo. What a joke. Even Sakura Momo herself looked unimpressed. She had expected a prolonged battle, but now victory seemed all but certain. One of her clones sneered, "Let's see how you dodge this next one." Swish, swish, swish. A flurry of sword strikes came raining down like a storm of blades. Liu Changsheng looked up at the descending barrage, calm despite the pressure. He knew there was nowhere left to run. "Take my rake," he roared, channeling all his remaining power into a single devastating strike. This wasn't just brute force. It was infused with the full weight of Thiemping's 36 heavenly transformations. If this didn't work, nothing would. The blow soared past the clones and struck true, hitting Sakura Momo's real body head-on, catching her completely off guard. The Sakura audience fell silent. The cheers died, and in their place gasps of disbelief. Sakura Momo looked visibly confused. She couldn't figure out how Liu Changsheng had seen through her disguise. Her clone technique was nearly perfect. Normal people would never notice a thing. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Tama Minome flashed a seductive smile and offered Marshal Thiampong a choice: kneel now, and she'd let him witness her beauty. The audience held their breath, wondering whether this Eastern divine warrior could resist her overwhelming charm. But in Chinping's mind, only one image surfaced: Chang'e. Compared to her, this fox spirit looked utterly grotesque. He said coldly, "A stinking old fox like you. Hard pass." Tamamo Gnome froze. Never in her life had she been called ugly, let alone by a pig demon. Before she could recover, Qian Peng launched himself forward like a cannonball. The crowd erupted. "You pig-faced freak, look at yourself before calling anyone else ugly." With a powerful swing of his rake, Qian Peng struck, but Tama Gnome managed a last backflip to dodge. She quickly countered, forming rapid hand signs. A purple energy orb formed at her fingertips, engulfing her hands. "You'll pay for what you just said," she growled. Tamo Monami began chanting softly, a spell that unleashed her ultimate technique. Similar to the legendary heavenly body expansion, it caused her body to swell to monstrous proportions. With a single stomp, she nearly knocked Marshal Thiampong off balance. "This is my celestial demon's wrath," she roared, her eyes blazing. "Feel my fury." Her titanic form loomed like a mountain, radiating overwhelming pressure. Even Liu Changsheng furrowed his brow slightly. If that foot landed, Qian Peng might really be flattened, but he showed no fear. If the tide didn't turn soon, he'd end the fight himself. Tamamon Omei had activated Suden Amaterasu, also known as the Yada Mirror, one of the 3 divine relics of the Sakura realm. With its power, her core strength surged nearly tenfold. But Marshal Thiamping wasn't about to back down. He roared, "Heavenly Body Ascension." A torrent of divine energy from the 36 heavenly stars erupted around him. In an instant, his body expanded to match the fox spirits. In size, they were equals, but in raw power, the gap remained. Tamamo's fingertips sparked with golden light. She was preparing her strongest strike, Celestial Spirit Strike, but Thiampom caught the attack effortlessly as if it were nothing but a breeze. He spun his nine-toothed rake with incredible force, creating a storm of golden energy. It whirled like a coiled dragon roaring across the field. Then, spotting an opening, he struck. The rake lashed out at her face, but Tam Monmei narrowly dodged. One moment slower and she would have paid dearly. Even Liu Changsheng was taken aback. Tamamanome, the nine-tailed fox and top demon king of the Sakura realm, was an SSS tier deity, their nation's hidden ace. Yet Marshal Qianpeng, who is only SS tier, was suppressing her with ease. That battle made one thing clear to Liu Changsheng. In future fights, he could never rely on levels alone to judge strength. Underestimating the wrong opponent could be fatal. Tamamonum wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, her gaze turning cold and vicious. "You dumb pig. You've completely pissed me off. I'll roast you like a suckling pig and eat you piece by piece." She raised both hands and in an instant, the sky darkened as storm clouds rolled in like a tidal wave. The audience from the Great Sae side also noticed the change, murmuring in confusion. Why did it suddenly go dark? With a wave of her hand, Tamamo summoned a barrage of blazing purple fireballs from the sky, raining down with terrifying force. This was her deadly move, Foxfire Annihilation. One touch from those flames and the victim would be reduced to ash. Hovering in the air, she launched fireball after fireball at Marshal Qianpeng in a relentless bombardment. The intense assault nearly shattered Qianpeng's protective aura, his spiritual shield on the verge of collapse. Ding Li's hand was sweating bullets, visibly anxious, but even so, he didn't utter a word. All he could do was stare at the divine battlefield with bated breath. Then a dramatic reversal struck. Marshal Thianfong raised his hand and roared, "Water, come!" In that instant, a brilliant yellow lightning bolt burst from his body, piercing the clouds and splitting the sky open. Two divine figures descended from the heavens, Raijin and Fujin, thunder gods wielding mighty hammers, arriving like the wrath of heaven itself. Boom! Thunder roared. Lightning cascaded like waterfalls, striking the ground with devastating force. In the blink of an eye, a massive crater formed in front of Tamamon Omei, the scorched earth still smoking. She stared at the pit, her expression shifting. Could an SS tier deity really unleash something like this? But the real shock hadn't even arrived yet. A colossal water vortex began to descend from the sky. Every stream of water responded to Marshal Thiamping's call, flowing toward him as if commanded by a higher will. Tamamanome furrowed her brows, clearly unsettled. "Where's all this water coming from?" Marshal Thianfan let out a cold snort and declared proudly, "As commander of the Celestial River Navy, controlling its waters is only natural." He then took to the skies, gliding upward effortlessly as if riding the wind itself. On the Sakura realm side, the spectators had fallen into stunned silence. They could only pray quietly that the nine-tailed fox wouldn't suffer total defeat. On the battlefield, Thiampan was ready. His next blow, brimming with overwhelming force, was about to come crashing down. Seeing this, Tamamomai had no choice but to activate her protective barrier, though even she doubted it could withstand the incoming strike. Boom! A blinding flash of golden light erupted between the two combats. Kemping's nine-toothed rake struck directly against her enchanted mirror. Crack! The mirror shattered instantly. The sound sharp and final. Tamamon Omei stood frozen in disbelief. Her face was blank with shock. How could her strongest defense be broken so effortlessly? Meanwhile, the audience from the Eastern realm erupted in cheers. That blow, absolutely legendary. Meanwhile, the Sakura realm's audience sat in utter silence. No one dared speak. They all knew the crushing consequences of losing this divine battle. Marshal Thianfong seized the momentum, determined to finish the nine-tailed fox in one decisive blow. With a fierce horizontal sweep, his nine-toothed rake ripped through the air with a sonic boom. In a flash of silver, it passed straight through her body. Thiampom froze. Confusion flickered across his face. That was a divine weapon, an ancient relic. Even she shouldn't have emerged unscathed. Unbeknownst to him, Tamamanome had used the golden cicada escape at the last, leaving a decoy behind to absorb the blow. Now, her mocking expression was gone. This pig demon, physically unstoppable, magically adept, and with spiritual power exceeding her own, was nearly flawless. Her eyes shifted to Liu Changsheng. When did the Eastern realm produce a chosen one who could summon a creature like this? Liu Changsheng met her gaze without flinching. "Keep staring, hag. One more look and my pig bro's gonna flatten you." Qianpeng chuckled. That last move, some sort of escape technique, wasn't it? As he spoke, he cast a spell of his own, Water Flash Step. His form rippled like water and vanished into the air. In a split-second opening, Marshal Timping's nine-toothed rake slammed straight into Tamamo Gnome's abdomen. She coughed violently, blood dripping onto the ground. Though furious, she could only grit her teeth and spit out a threat. After all, she'd been outmatched, but she wasn't done yet. With a sweep of her arm, she roared, "You think I've shown everything? Think again." A surge of magical energy burst, summoning one towering figure behind her and two spectral protectors in front. The audience from the Sakura realm erupted with joy. She summoned Shutendoji, Owajitsumaru, and even Amaterasu. There's no way the Eastern realm can handle this. The main divine phantom stepped forward and spoke with chilling menace. Prepared to be judged false god of the East. With a single gesture for floating swords materialized before him spinning with deadly intent. The phantom joined in. Above them, the sky darkened as countless attacks rained down like a divine storm, but Marshal Thianfong remained calm. He still had one final ace up his sleeve. In a flash, he activated his most powerful technique, 36 heavenly transformations. His form shifted into a soaring eagle, weaving through the rain of swords with unmatched agility. Once out of the attack range, Marshal Thianfong reverted to human form, muttering under his breath, "Seriously? Can't win, so you call in your side pieces?" Even so, he showed no fear toward the summoned divine spirits. Tama Mono nearly laughed in rage. "You stubborn swine, taking the heaviest hits and still talking the biggest trash. Haven't you been dodging this whole time?" Qian Peng locked eyes with her. "Dodging? Me? That was tactical maneuvering. Learn the difference." Then he roared once more, heavenly body ascension. His body swelled to towering heights again, and his nine-toothed rake grew with him, now large enough to blot out the sky. This time, he was ready to unleash his ultimate move, Celestial River Surge, to wipe out all enemy summons in one blow. The divine waters rained down like judgment from the heavens. The phantoms that had surrounded Temenomina vanished the moment they touched it. One remaining spirit barely dodged the waves of soft water, clearly terrified to make contact. Grinding his teeth, the divine shadow cursed. "What kind of demon is this pig? Why does he have an endless arsenal of abilities?" Pushed to the brink, the spirit went berserk. Energy surged violently around him as he prepared to unleash his deadliest attack on Thianfong. Marshal Thianfong looked up, and immediately several waves of purple fire came hurtling down like falling stars, sealing off every possible escape. Boom, boom, boom. The ground quaked. The flaming attacks shattered his defenses and smashed into the arena with devastating force. Thianpeng was clearly struggling to keep up. At last, one blast struck him directly. He crashed into the ground under the full brunt of the purple flame. The Sakura realm's crowd erupted in euphoria. "It's a divine miracle. Amaterasu's ultimate celestial art, even a pig demon can't survive that. One fragment of divine essence alone is enough to crush him." On the battlefield, Timpoon's body tumbled across the arena, his golden glow flickering as his divine power began to fade. Liu Changsheng narrowed his eyes, sensing the god's spiritual core was destabilizing. The Eastern Realm's audience was pale with dread. They couldn't believe Champong had fallen. The phantom of Amaterasu approached slowly, looking down on Champong like he was a discarded corpse. "You're just a beast," he said coldly. "How do you challenge divine will?" But just then, Qian Peng, half buried in rubble, whispered, "Heart of purity, awaken," and a surge of energy reignited. Slowly, he rose to his feet, his body glowing gold once more. Even Amaterasu was stunned. "What? This pig is still standing." Without warning, a giant hand burst from the cracked arena floor, lunging straight for the divine phantom above. On the battlefield, the giant hand clenched tightly around Amaterasu's phantom throat. The divine phantom's eyes widened in shock. His godly power was draining rapidly, and he could no longer emit even a flicker of light. Zhu Ganlai sneered, baring his fangs. "Yeah, I'm a pig, but I've never been anyone's livestock." Bam! With a sudden slam of his arm, he drove Amaterasu's spirit hard into the ground. Cheers erupted from the stands. No one expected this demon god to be so cunning. Feigning weakness, then executing a crushing counter-attack with surgical precision. Liu Changsheng stood quietly watching the scene unfold. Those strikes just reignited the pride of the entire Eastern Realm. Crushed beneath Zhu Gonglia's might, the phantom of Amaterasu could hold on no longer. His form began to dissolve into mist. With the divine shadow defeated, Zhu Ganlai turned his gaze toward Tamamanon. He had forgotten how brutally she'd beaten him earlier. Now it's payback time. Wham! The nine-toothed rake whipped out like a guillotine, cutting Tamamanon down on the spot. As the battle concluded, Zhu Ganglia's golden glow faded. His form slowly reverted to that of Marshal Qianpeng, standing tall and triumphant on the arena. As the battle ended, Liu Changsheng stepped forward, bowing with respect. "Welcome back, Marshal. You've returned victorious." But to his surprise, Marshal Qianpeng raised his hand and said hoarsely, "Stay away from me." The sudden rejection hit Liu Changsheng like a cold wind. What's wrong with him? Qianpeng slowly dropped to his knees. His divine glow had faded completely. His power was gone. The audience gasped in shock. Concern rippled across every face as the crowd sensed something was deeply wrong. Only then did Liu Changsheng realize Qianpeng didn't want him to see him in this defeated state. In the eyes of Chang'e, he had always been a great and mighty warrior. Yet deep inside, he carried only regret. If I had been braver back then, would things have ended differently? With labored breath, Qianpeng gave Liu Changsheng his final wish. If he were to die, find his senior brother and master and bring them to his grave so they'd know he wasn't a coward. But Liu Changsheng shook his head. No, he said firmly, you'll tell them yourself. He turned to the stands, and in that solemn moment, the people of the Eastern Realm rose in unison and bowed to the fallen god who had fought for them with everything he had. The moment Liu Changsheng spoke, Dean Lisan instantly understood his intent. His expression turned resolute. With a commanding wave of his hand, he ordered, everyone prepare divine nourishment for Marshal Qianpeng immediately. At the same time, the battle was being streamed live across the Eastern Realm. When the people saw that Qianpeng was weakened and in need of sustenance, they sprang into action, packing treasured foods and offerings, rushing to send them as tributes to the gods. Deep within the sacred halls of the pantheon, a colossal boar-shaped silhouette slowly emerged, surrounded by divine light. It was Zhu Genlai. His eyes, long closed in slumber, slowly opened, glowing with radiant power. In the next moment, his spectral form appeared on the tier of the pantheon, a level reserved only for SS tier deities. Only true gods of power and glory had the right to stand there.